The very fine pastor of this church, Reverend T.E. Sweeney, is going to come to you now to define the attributes of a good neighbor. Let's welcome him.
Mr. the ceremony, and to all of you who are here tonight, I am deeply lifted and deeply impressed with even the thought of what this program is all about. A neighbor, a good neighbor. In the 10th chapter of the book of Luke, and beginning at the 25th verse, and if you read that through the 37th verse, you will learn what Jesus says about a neighbor. We don't talk about neighbors as we once did. In an area where there were few houses, the neighbor was the one that looked after your house. A good neighbor would look after your children. A good neighbor would look after whatever you owned or you possessed. The book says that the dictionary that a neighbor is one that's close by. But I'm glad now that that definition will not stay because of modern invention. Our neighbors are the Chinese, the Japanese, the Russians, the people of France and England and Africa. Because in a few minutes, now, few hours, we can be anywhere in the world. But still, we have to come back home to those who are close by us. I believe there's a great change coming over the world now. For when we look at this great race that's going on, and we find that neighbors have no particular color, no particular race, creed, or color, you can be a neighbor. Jesus preaching one day, and a certain lawyer stood up, tempting him. Jesus had to deal with this always, because there were those who didn't understand, but who knew that Jesus was not a college graduate, that Jesus never attended school anywhere, that the things that Jesus said were always questioned. This lawyer stood up and said, "Master, what shall I do to inherit eternal life?" Jesus said unto him, "What is written in the law, and how readeth thou?" And he answered and said, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy strength, and with all thy mind, and thy neighbor as thyself." Now, this rich man seemed to have understood the other phrases that were mentioned, but he did not understand the last part. Thy neighbor as thyself. He said, thou hast answered right. This do, and thou shalt live. And then Jesus, being an all-knowing God, who understands our hearts and our minds and our thinking and know exactly what we're going to say before we open our mouth, knew that this man was lost in his thinking. So Jesus began to tell him a parable. In this parable he said, there was a certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho. And on his way down there, he fell among thieves, which stripped him of his raiments. They wounded him and departed, leaving him half dead. Then he said that a certain priest came by on his way to his service. He was so concerned about what he had to do in his service that he just looked at the man and passed on the other side. And it wasn't long now before a Levite came. And he saw the man in a suffering condition. But he didn't have time to stop to assist this man in his condition. So he too passed on the other side. Then Jesus said that a certain Samaritan, as he was on his journey,